All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. Woo! All right, have to mute the airport in the background there for a moment. Um, seem to have a little bit of technical difficulties here. Hold on one moment. What in God's name? Woo! All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Anyway, today, as you can see from the title screen, now what is going? Okay. My bitrate is going all over the place. It's going from like 2K down to like 0 in record time. Seems to be fluctuating around
Wow.
16K right now, or 1600 right now, so we're okay. Um, anyway, we were talking about The Walking Dead. That series has come to an end, and I wanted to read it, so I've read every issue up to 193 in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
I was
Holy shit.
I was up till the early hours of the morning, 2 days in a row, continuing to read this. Becky, if you're all set up, try and unmute yourself. We'll see how it's going. Unmute yourself and say something.
More.
Why?
It just becomes all consuming.
Oh well.
Because I like to sleep.
You like to sleep?
Yeah. And when I'm I'm like any other avid reader. When I get caught up in a story, man, I just want to keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
And it interferes with shit. And so I'm really careful about the books I pick up anymore.
Well, anytime I get into a really good like comic book series, that's what always happens. I mean, there is no in between. You start at the beginning and you read it all the way until it ends. I don't like reading month to month on good stories because I'm always left at the end of the month pissed off that there's not more of it.
Well, but that's exactly what you want as a writer, as a story creator. That's the kind of response you would love to create in your audience.
Well,
Is that craving for more?
absolutely. I think that one thing that a lot of people take for granted is with good stories and with comic books especially, they seem to just kind of go on forever. Um, I mean, several thousand issues into some stories, like we're up to issue 1,000 and some change with Batman and Detective Comics and all that stuff, Superman, Action Comics,
Yeah.
and I mean, there are chunks of story that seem to mesh together, but you wouldn't sit down and read Superman #1 all the way to the end like you would The Walking Dead, because about the time you hit the Silver Age, go ahead.
There's not a consistent thread, though, is there?
No, not at all.
There's not a consistent storyline. So that would make a difference.
Becky, are you?
For one, you wouldn't need to.
No.
Huh?
Are you? Wow, you are really loud. This is all my fault,
God.
everybody. All the technical issues are my fault.
No, they're not.
Don't blame anything on the woman. We are not a sexist show here. The man takes all the blame. So what I've got.
The man apologizes whether he's at fault or not. That's how that works.
Absolutely, we're not. You know, we're not perfect here. Come on.
No.
Anyway,
Oh Lord.
we're talking The Walking Dead today. This series has been going on for years, well over a decade, and most people will be
That's
familiar
crazy.
with the television show. I'm not the biggest fan of the TV show. I watched it when it first started up. I watched the first couple of seasons, and they were okay, but it couldn't hold my interest. Whereas I started reading this, and I lost sleep because I couldn't put it down.
Wow, that's awesome.
So the book started
Well,
in.
to be fair,
Go ahead.
the TV series was just kind of overflowing with hyper annoying characters.
You know,
It's just like everyone was just so exhausting to have on the show. It's like, oh God, thank God they're dead.
I don't disagree with you, but there are some big differences, like a lot of people know, between the characters. Like Dale, or not Dale, Daryl is not a character that was
Daryl.
ever introduced in the comic books. There's only one character I saw that used a crossbow efficiently, and he eventually switched over to a gun 99% of the time. So there was no need for him to keep using the crossbow the way Daryl does. But all in all, I think the book ended pretty satisfactorily. I can't complain about. I'm not going to get into that just yet of how it ended, but I think that the ending was pretty satisfactory. There was a couple of instances where I thought, man, what direction is this going? And there were a couple of instances where I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well that's just plain pandering right there. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Robert Kirkman loved this book. I think this was a project that he really cared about. And the way he addresses the audience in these comics are, they're pretty telling, because he only directly addresses the audience when something big has happened. I think I only remember it happening a few times. One was when he was telling the story of how he came to the death of Andrea in the comic books, because she made it a lot further than in the books than she did the show.
Which is too bad, because she was one of the least annoying female characters.
But
And one of the least annoying overall.
well, in the show, from what I recall, she passed away shortly after the whole governor thing, right?
Yeah,
Or during it, something along those lines. Like, she didn't make it much past.
something like that.
And Michonne was the love interest for Rick. Correct?
Right.
Okay. Well, neither Michonne nor Andrea die until much later, after the governor has been dealt with.
Oh really?
Yeah. So you know how it took them, like, what, 6, 7 seasons to get to the Negan era?
Yeah.
That marked past the 100th issue. After 100 issues is when you get some of the more intricate storylines, like Negan and the Whisperers and the Hunters, Cannibals, and you get the Fair, and you get Ezekiel and the Kingdom. Was there a Fair in the show yet? Has that happened?
Yes.
Well, in his address, Robert Kirkman said that around issue 142, which I do believe was right around the Fair, he said that he knew that the book didn't have 300 issues in it, because that was his initial goal. He wanted to do 300 issues.
Wow.
Well, that's Cerberus.
Good lord.
Spawn's about to cross over 300 issues. So, I mean, you
Really?
got
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that's outrageous. That's crazy.
for an independent creator-owned title, yeah. I think McFarlane stepped away from Spawn as far as creating goes for a long time, though. So Robert Kirkman was the writer on every single issue of The Walking Dead. I think with minor exceptions for certain special occasions, but he was the constant writer for The Walking Dead. The book had the same artist from issue 7 to issue 193.
Wow.
Gentleman by the name of Tony Moore did issues 1 through 6, and then Adlard, Charlie Adlard, did issues 7 through 193. There was another inker that came on for issues 115 to 193. Stefano Galdiano. Kirkman did the letters for the first 19 issues. Russ Wooten did the letters for the last 100 and some odd issues, 173. And you had two different colorists on the book, Tony Moore and Cliff Rathburn. But he also likes to credit Charlie Adlard for a lot of the creative insight as to how the characters were going to get places, how many hours they put into the particular project over the last 16 years. Because this book started coming out in 2003.
Okay, I have.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Go ahead, Becky.
I have a dumb girl question.
Shoot.
So in the comic books, there's a guy that draws it, and then there's somebody else that colors the pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought the same person did all that.
Sometimes, but not often. Usually, I mean, coloring is an art form of its own. Shading, all of that
Right.
good stuff.
Right.
So, and the reason I say that is because when I say coloring in The Walking Dead, it's a grayscale book. There are no colored images.
So shading.
Right. It's all gray shading.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you usually have somebody like the typical process, Becky, is, well, I don't know the typical process, quote unquote, but the average idea of the process, I would say, goes scripting and page layouts. You write the story, then you do scripting and page layouts. You give that scripting and page layouts to an artist. The artist starts to draw it in pencil. That artist gives those pencils to an inker. The inker goes in and smooths out the line, does a little bit of the crosshatch work, does a little bit of shading, adds some detail and finite texture and whatnot. And then they pass that off to a colorist who will color the image. And then you have a letterer who goes in and puts all the words in the word boxes.
Okay.
Because before digital proofing...
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, before digital proofing, this was all handwritten text. Like, two E's wouldn't look the same. If you go back and look at some of the images that we put up for Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamster, you can see the difference in hand lettering versus font lettering.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because fonts have very consistent. I mean, even if it's made to look like handwriting, it's going to be way too consistent to actually be handwriting.
Comic Sans. Sorry. But yeah, that's how the interior art looks in comparison to the coverage.
Oh, look at that.
Right.
Wow.
So,
It's cool looking though. It's good art.
oh yeah, it's fantastic, and it's very consistent. Even though they're the shift from issue 6 to issue 7, it's very consistent. Um, but like I was saying, this book is it's a love letter to comic books as a medium, and I loved every second of reading it. It was gripping, it was enticing, it made me want to keep reading. Whereas even though I could binge watch seasons of the show, I don't care about it anymore because I don't like it. Um, and I was fully prepared for that to happen here with reading this, and it never
Mhm.
did. Uh,
Well, how about that's interesting. So what was the? I'm guessing the comic came first, right?
right.
And then the TV show. And so how long was the comic out before the TV show picked it up?
Um, doo doo. 2010, so it was out for about 7 years.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Which, I mean, it kind of goes hand in
That's-
hand. Go ahead.
No, I say that's it was out for a long time already.
Right. What was it? Lock and Key that we just read. When did that first come out?
Mhm.
Oh, that was out for a while too.
Yeah, that came out in 2008, and 10 years later, they're finally getting around to adapting. After they've been talking about it since it first came out.
Wow.
But
I love that comic. I absolutely love it.
I think you would like this one a lot as well. If you like the show, then I think this will make you think that the show is garbage. Like no offense to the show or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely need to read it then.
Shout out to Matt Christie in the chat. Been pretty good, man. Set off some ordnance for the 4th. Read The Walking Dead over the week. Talking about it now. Having some technical issues, doing what we do on a weekend. But no, there were a couple of things, and I want to do this over the course of the next couple of weeks if I have the time. But I want to go through and just kind of map out the characters, and I'm sure it's already been done somewhere, but I want a visual graph of it. And when Ayrton gets back, I may have him on, and well, obviously I'll have him on, but I may see if he wants to kind of talk about it a little bit. But no,
So
yeah.
What was your take on, like, so often the case when Hollywood adapts material, they'll start off and they'll be reasonably faithful to it, and then like every season they'll just march farther and farther away from the original intent and the original content until they eventually just toss it aside and do their own shit.
I think that's inevitable with the television medium. And that was apparent with stuff like Transformers, the Michael Bay movies. Because
Yeah.
Transformers is an age-old, time-honored passion of so many nerd children that were alive in the 80s and 90s. But you give it to somebody like Michael Bay, who likes blowing up cars and buildings, and you're not going to get an homage to that 80s and 90s feel. You're going to get a Michael Bay flick skinned like a Transformers movie.
True.
So it really depends on who you give the keys to the kingdom to. They did this with Preacher. Preacher was a Vertigo comic they made into a TV series that ended up being nothing like the books. I don't know if I've talked about.
My understanding is that True Blood, I mean, it's not a comic, but the True Blood books went down a similar path. Like it was fairly close
Oh, that I don't
ish
doubt one
to
bit.
begin with, and then they just threw the books away and went their own direction.
But even then, they had the books. Look at Walking Dead. Eventually, they ran out of books, and they were like, "Fuck it, we're gonna do what we want. Show is ours now."
And now we know who the real writers were.
That is correct.
Mhm.
We're just gonna leave water bottles on
And
set and shit.
Yeah, oh my god, that was so sloppy and tedious and short.
But in any event, no. This book, like I said, it had so much more to offer, but it would have been impossible to adapt the story as it was to a TV show. I think just because of the way the story is written. At 2 points during the story, you skip ahead years. In between issues.
For long periods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, there are a couple of instances where you see like 6 months and a few panels when someone's remembering something or telling a story. But this is literally, you end one issue and you pick up the next issue and a character's aged like 5 years.
Yeah, that does present problems.
So, but I mean, it only happened twice, and I think you can get there naturally. But I think in trying to get there naturally, they had to create so much filler material that wasn't canon, that wasn't even close to source, that it was impossible to do justice. A key difference of the books and the TV show: Judith dies when Lori dies at the prison. They get shot with a shotgun.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the baby, Rick and Lori's baby. When Lori dies, when Carl's mom dies.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, they shoot the baby while Lori's holding her. Like they shoot Lori in the back while the baby's being held.
Ooh.
During an attack on the prison. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's fucking awful.
Yeah, that's probably gonna have trouble making it onto the screen. I admit that.
Right. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think it does present a difficulty when you make that choice, though, because now you have to write in a reasonable explanation that this fucking baby survives in the post-apocalyptic zombie world. Like, either you.
But you don't. You can have the baby disappear in 100 different scenarios.
No, I'm not
just
saying
stolen.
that. I'm saying like.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're going to keep her on screen, it's going to be difficult to keep coming up with nuanced explanation as to how you keep caring for this infant's needs without a mother producing milk, without formula, without water, without food for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Like you're making it hard to suspend the disbelief. I think it was smarter at the point in time where things were going for the baby to not survive. It's sad.
Right. And for the TV show, I mean, yeah, you don't. It's kind of a pretty hard and fast rule that you don't kill children on screen.
Yeah, but
think about it.
We've kind of fallen off of that though. Not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
Somewhat, and that's on a pay channel to be sure. But
on network television, you definitely don't kill children.
Right. I mean, you can kill them, you just can't show it. Right. That's the difference. You can kill all the children you want, kind of like, but you can't show them being killed in mainstream movies and shit. It's just people don't want to see that,
I do want
Right.
to.
and
I do want to address one
so
thing.
they could have.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so they could have had the baby die in a lot of different ways that wasn't getting blasted with a shotgun.
Yeah, but you can do that in comic
You know.
books, and it hurts. It hurts to read it. It was very sad for me because having seen up to that point in the show, I knew that the baby was going to live. I was like, oh, well, that's just shitty. That's going to piss Rick off. He's going to go pick his baby up and kill people holding a baby, isn't he? Oh, wait, no, the baby's dead? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Matt Christie in the chat says something, they can't create anything original themselves, so they adapt comic books. I would go so far as to actually state that they not only adapt comic books, but that people are using comic books now as pilots for television shows, as a staging ground for the pilot of a television show, because it's much cheaper to produce a comic book and sell a couple 100,000 copies of it and say, see, this is an interesting concept, than it
I
is
see.
to
So instead of producing a show, they produce a comic book of the show they want to do.
right.
Fascinating.
That's what I think this whole
It's basically selling storyboards.
Mhm.
Well, that's all comic books have ever been, are very complex,
Right.
well designed storyboards. But the fact is that I think that instead of people using them to tell their story, I think they're using them to try and tell their story on TV or get their story on TV. So it's kind of depressing. Like I was talking about last week, I think this Hill House imprint that DC is doing is I think that's pretty much a staging ground for some horror television shows that Warner Brothers, or horror movies even, that Warner Brothers can take and create because they'll own the properties.
Could be interesting. I mean, horror television is definitely moving up in the world, I should say. I mean, there's people seem to be more into it. There seems to be more shows coming out. I just watched season 3 of Stranger Things, for example. Then there's which is
Church
pretty
did
tame
as well.
stuff.
Mrs. Church did as well. I saw bits and pieces of it,
Yeah?
like I do everything she watches. But
I think it devolved into a straight up monster show and didn't have any of the interesting elements of the first 2 seasons.
I haven't seen it.
Matt Christie in the chat said, do you think this could be diluting the comic book industry more? I don't know that it's diluting it. I think that the comic book industry is evolving right now. I think that we're in a ebb and flow of the comic book industry right now. I think Comicsgate is going to change the landscape of how creators that want to tell their stories with comic books get that story to people that want to read it. I think that the mainstream distribution routes are on borrowed time. I think that Diamond distributors are going to start folding under the just lack of people buying their stuff. Because as it stands right now, comic books aren't shipped to grocery stores. They're not shipped to newsstands because none of those things fucking exist anymore as far as the newsstand goes.
Right.
And if you shipped them to a grocery store, the grocery store wouldn't take them unless they could return them at the end of the month.
Right.
So, returnability is the one thing I think keeping comic books from being able to survive the coming onslaught. And returnability would kill Diamond. Because it's a razor thin margin anyway. a comic book costs $3.99 going on the shelf, right? That's how much you're gonna pay for it when you go to
Okay.
the store. That comic book's probably gonna be in a plastic bag and a paper board behind it to keep its shape and structure.
Right. Right.
That's 19 cents per issue right there that you're putting into it as an owner of a store. That comic book needs to be displayed, so it's going to take up shelf space that an action figure or a higher selling product or something else could take up. So you have to take
Right.
that cost into mind. And then you have the idea that it costs $3.99 and you pay $2.50 for it.
Mhm.
As a store?
Yeah,
You saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, you know, and that's if it didn't come in
Right.
damaged and you have to knock $1 off of it to begin with. So, you know, not to burst anybody's bubble, but that's why comic industry is failing right now, because why would anyone want to mess with such a volatile product? But then you have shit like this happen.
Yeah.
The final issue of The Walking Dead comes out, and people are
Yeah.
crowding into the store to try and pick it up. Never been in there to buy a comic book before, but it's the last issue of The Walking Dead. It might be worth something one day. It's stuff like that that keeps the comic industry open, but I have a hard time believing the last issue of The Walking Dead is ever going to climb in price.
Why don't they put
Probably
them
not.
on Kindle?
They do. I mean, they don't put them
So
on
I could
Kindle,
get
but they put them on.
No, I mean actual Kindle.
Oh, on Amazon.
Yes.
Amazon runs Comixology.
So why can't I get it on my Kindle?
I think you can get Comixology on your Kindle.
No, I just want to get.
Yes,
I
they
don't want to
can.
get I don't want to get a separate app. I want to be able to buy it just like every other fucking book.
You can.
You can.
Yeah, you can put a image.com.
You can go to Amazon and get them.
Yeah, or Image. You can just buy it
Right.
offline.
You can go to Amazon.com and get Dr. P.
Yeah.
I know, I did it.
Yeah. You can buy them from Amazon.
What about
It's
back issues?
Yeah. And you can buy them from Amazon from Comixology, and a lot of them you can download and back up off the website. And once you have the file, which you own it, you put it on whatever fucking device you want to, without having to have a separate app because it's already set up for an e-reader.
Right.
Yeah, that's too many steps.
Right. Well, that's why you just use Comixology.
You lazy turd.
No, but I'm serious.
I know. I know what you're saying.
I don't have to go through those fucking steps to buy, John Grisham.
But again, the Kindle is more for reading novels than it is comic books. The screen resolution is not that high. The screen usually isn't that big. And you can get bigger Kindles now, but the bigger Kindles you get now are tablets. They're full-on tablets. They're not just e-readers like they used to be.
Right.
Right.
I think when you go for the Kindle brand, you're going for something that reads books, not comic books. Now, that's something to think about. There should be a Diamond tablet and a Diamond. And I'm not saying this because I support Diamond. Fuck them. I hate them. But if they were intelligent business people, they would put a tablet out there, and they would have you set up with a subscription. So instead of having to go to one of these dying comic book stores or having to order your comics, you can just say, "Hey, Diamond, I want these comic books this month. Here's my money." And that month, when it's the new comic release day, they just upload to your tablet. Why don't we have that yet? They already have the license to distribute the books.
Right. Exactly.
So why do I have like 6 different comic book apps to where I would download different, Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, Comixology, Graphite. It's all just too convoluted. It's exactly what you just said, SC.
Yeah.
It's too many steps. People don't want to do it. Unless you care enough to do it, you're not going to care enough to do it later.
And you're not going to get somebody new in there when it's convoluted.
Right. So
you want to reduce, if you want to make more sales, you got to reduce friction. And
it has
friction in buying is painful to people, and they'll just like, nope, they'll bail out.
Right.
Mrs. Church says that you can download kids' comic books on Kindle, so it's at least possible. But
that's nice.
Our kids' Kindle has that free time like app on it, so I'm not sure if it's part of that or not. Matt Christie, I'll be back in about 15-20. All right, buddy. We'll see you when you get back.
We'll be here.
Maybe. But Mrs. Church said Judith did.
Church kicked us all out.
That's right. Judith did disappear when they left the prison. It was kind of up in the air whether or not she was alive until they eventually show who she was with. So that's what we have in the chat there. Again, the thing is, it makes sense to pull her off screen like they did, but in the comic book, I felt like at the time it had more of an impact as well. Because in the comic book, it's never really questionable if someone died or not. Like, you see every major death take place on panel.
Well, that's useful.
Like
it makes you wonder, in the TV show, they probably want to, keep the door open for some characters just in case they want to bring them back.
Right. Well, except for Abraham.
Well, that's how they
Glenn.
keep their viewers.
It's
Say that again.
Well, except for Abraham and
That's
Glenn.
how they keep their viewers coming back. Just on the off chance that that character might come back.
Oh yeah. But looks like the stream is hiccuping. I'm gonna refresh. We should still be online though. Yeah, we're good. It should be in a pain in the ass. Well, we were talking
it's
about.
Probably me.
It is. It's always your fault. But characters die on panel like every time. Why is it saying offline now? Live. Okay. Jesus Christ, I hate this fucking thing. Fix your goddamn platform, YouTube. Shouldn't be this hard. You have the server space. We know you do. Get Alphabet to buy you some more servers and suck it up, Buttercup. But yeah, you never have to question, in the books at least, whether or not someone died. Some characters, I will take it back. Some characters do die off screen, obviously. But it's always implicitly stated by someone who watched them die. Or you see that they're lying somewhere before they say anything about it. So, I mean, it's just by the time I got to the end of the series, I was already well trained to know that, and that could be a good or a bad thing too for the books. I was already trained by the end of the book to know that if I didn't see them die, they're probably not dead.
Okay, well that's handy.
Handy, but I think it could be it could be a detriment to the story now that I think about it. I'm singing all these praises, but I have to be critical. It could be a detriment to the ability to tell the story if every character's death is projected a mile away. You get what I'm saying?
Like taking the time out to say, oh, by the way, here's another dead character,
Yeah. Well,
instead of just mentioning it.
not only that, but it takes away the ability to pretend that somebody might be dead.
True.
That makes sense.
Well, that's a good point, because when you're in a survival situation and you don't have any electronic communications, and you split up and then you don't meet where you're supposed to, you have no fucking way to know what happened to them. You know, that's the real life situation. You just don't know. That's and there's something to be said for portraying that uncertainty.
Right. But I think we were all like so invested in these characters, even on the books or the show. I think you're so invested in the characters by the time you get to their end that it would be a disservice to leave you with that kind of curiosity. The only character they
you don't have to do it with major ones,
right? Well, they do it with one character, and it's kind of a surprising one. I don't know his fate in the show, but I think in my research today I found out a little spoiler on it. Negan died in the show, didn't he?
I don't actually know.
No, that I know of.
Okay, but he didn't die in the books either.
Negan's the dude, right?
The what?
He's the asshole with the bat, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
you call him an asshole all you want to. He is a fantastic fucking character.
He's a character, but he's a butthole.
I read his entire every one of his text boxes with a British accent. It made it so much more believable. He didn't die in the show. I thought I kept seeing Google searches for what episode did Negan die in. So it made me think that he was dead. Some more fake news from Google, ladies and gentlemen. But no, Negan didn't die in the books. They couldn't find him at his house at the end, but Robert Kirkman assures us that Negan lived. And that's something that I kind of wanted to touch on. And before we leave out of here,
beat him like a pinata.
Huh?
Sorry. I would like to beat him like a pinata.
Nah, he's fantastic. He,
you see, Becky, the strength of any story lies in the quality of the antagonist.
He's not an antagonist.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey. Well, I mean,
he's the bad dude in it.
One of them, but there are badder dudes than him out there. Negan's not crap.
Well, I know, but I mean, you line up a bunch of people and you kill one of them in front of everybody. I ain't gonna like you.
Well, in the show, he did too.
Well, we just can't be friends then.
Oh, for shit's sake.
Yeah, what do you think me and SK are doing tomorrow, Becky? Like Russian roulette. It's like Russian roulette with the barbed wire baseball bat.
Oh, Lord.
But no, he now, do you know why he calls the bat Lucille? Besides, that's a badass name for a bat.
You picked
because he likes BB King.
To leave me loose. No, was that it? No.
Because he likes BB King.
No, it's his wife's name.
Oh.
He buries the remnants of the first bat in the. Fun fact: Negan is based on Henry Rollins. I don't find that surprising at all.
No, I don't either.
But he buries his bat, the first one, in a grave and marks it with the name Lucille. And through the exposition later on, you find out that that was his wife, and he just so upset by the fact that she's gone, and he never got to say goodbye properly. And that's why he's such a hard ass about everything, and he thinks he's doing what's best. I mean, he's not, obviously,
Yeah.
but this whole story is about Rick thinking that he knows what he's doing is the best thing to do. Without Rick
Right.
thinking that he's doing the right thing, you wouldn't have a story. By the end of the story, and this is where we're going to start talking about the full ending. Henry Rollins auditioned for the role after hearing that and didn't get it.
That is funny. I just read that. I was like, oh, hell no.
You know,
What?
Charlie Chaplin once entered a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest, came in 3rd place.
Yeah. Henry Rollins didn't get his own part. That's hilarious. Now, Henry Rollins is a bona fide real life badass.
Yes, he is. So is Negan. So is Negan.
He's an ass.
Read the books and tell me you still hate him.
I don't hate him. I just think he's an ass. I think he is a great bad guy. I think he's a terrific bad guy, but I still think he's an ass.
Well, I think Rick is the bad guy.
Why is Rick the bad guy?
No, he's not. He's a bad guy.
Well, everybody's a bad guy in this world.
Bad as in bad guy as in he's bad, or bad as in he's bad, I want to be like him bad?
No.
There's a difference.
The problem with Rick is that he's so certain.
Right.
And certainty is not a good quality to have, especially in a fluid society, if you can call it that.
We don't have a fluid society in The Walking Dead. Let's be completely clear here.
I mean,
the society they have in The Walking Dead, if you're not certain, someone's going to kill you and tell everybody they're in charge now.
Right.
So that's what I was kind of getting at. This whole story revolves around how much these people depend on Rick. You actually hear the line multiple times in the comic. It's not Rick's fault that someone died just because someone died doing something that he ordered. It's Rick's fault that everybody else survived. Because in this world, you're already living on borrowed time.
Well, in fairness, in those kinds of situations, being a military, essentially a military commander,
right?
The calculus of any battle is how many lives am I willing to spend?
Right. It's all a game of chess at a certain point. And Rick didn't lose a lot of pieces in comparison. The biggest casualty they ever had, I think, was like 12 people. And that was from the Whisperers. Now, Becky, you've watched every episode of the show. Did they get to the Whisperers yet?
Yes.
Those are some creepy sons of bitches.
Yes, they are.
They're incompetent in the books, though. They had the potential to be a lot more than they were. And they were terrifying.
Yeah, they are on the show too. Yes.
But they're not great bad guys. I like Negan's crew better because they were more organized. They had a system in place. See, the Whisperers talk about how they're just animals and they're not trying to start a civilization, yet they assign a border. That's not how animals do.
Right. Well, territories.
Sure.
Yeah, they kind of do.
Sure, but you don't build a fence to mark it. You just defend it.
Right.
You don't negotiate. Humans negotiate. Animals don't negotiate. not with
Yeah.
people that, you know, I don't know. I felt like they were kind of wasted a little bit. I feel like they could have been a little more. That's one place that I would have liked to see a little bit more development. Now, how did the whispers happen in the show, Becky? Like,
They just kind of showed up.
yeah, they showed up. Was there a fair in the show? Did we ask that already?
There was a fair.
That's about the time they showed up, right?
Right.
In the books,
The town was having a fair, and I forget who it was told them that maybe somebody said that if they brought people across that road, that they would kill them all.
Right.
But I don't remember who that was.
That was the Alpha.
And right. And then the town was like, "We're not going to stand for this," blah blah blah. And then Daryl went out with some people and tried to stop the
So
people from coming into town.
Daryl's character is modeled after whoever happened to be Rick's right-hand man at the time. At that point,
Right.
At that point in the comic, it was a fella named White who used to be one of Negan's underlings. He was the one that had the crossbow. He's the one that killed Abraham. Negan didn't kill Abraham in the comic.
Okay.
Abraham died probably 2 issues before Glenn. But I will say the way they killed Glenn on the show was pretty loyal to the way it happened in the comic book.
Glenn was like one of the all-time favorite characters of everybody.
Oh yeah.
So they had to be good to him. I mean,
was Maggie pregnant when he died?
Yeah, I think that was. Yes.
Okay.
No, that came after.
Jesus Christ. SK, ladies and gentlemen.
You're fired, SK.
About time.
Well, that was good.
But anyway, moving right along. I believe that.
Oh, I got a mini snort.
Jesus Christ. So they adapted a lot of the book pretty accurately, but again, I think that the time jumps and I think the character differences really were a detriment to the show. Mainly because there's always, I don't know, there's always too much filler. It's always just too much inane conversation that in the comic books is done with a glance in between panels, just the expression on the characters' faces.
God, I hate that part of the shows. Shut the fuck up and move on to the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
Do something. Get up your asses. Quit talking. Jesus. Yeah. It's not radio. If I can watch your show with the picture off and understand what's going on, that's called radio.
Mm-hmm.
So don't even bother with the pictures then. Either get your people doing shit or make a radio show.
Right. Well, I mean, they'll even in the comics, like you get like a telling glance between two characters, and it'll give you more insight than 15 minutes of them talking back and forth would.
Yeah, but that takes really good filmmaking to do that.
That takes skill and finesse, is what it takes.
Yes. Yes.
So
and Joss Whedon is a pretty dang good writer, but even he said, and I think it was the commentary to Serenity, he said writers like to hear themselves write.
Yeah.
They want to hear their words coming out of the mouths of the characters.
Now,
Even if it's boring the audience to death.
I think it's interesting too, and we can kind of examine this from the outside looking in. Look at how much media this comic book spawned. A TV show, a second TV show, video games, mobile games, and a novel.
Wow.
One thing I would love to have from Kirkman but never expect to get is Kirkman doing the beginning of The Walking Dead. Like, tell us how the outbreak happened. Give us that story. I mean,
that would be cool.
I'm sure you've come up with 100, but what's your end all like explanation? Now there is a letters column in the issues, and I didn't read all of them, so he may address that in one of those issues. But I've never seen him directly confirm or deny what caused the outbreak. We know that 30 years after Rick Grimes dies, spoiler alert, Rick Grimes fucking dies at the end of this series. And we flash forward
finally
30 years into the future.
And Carl's running the world.
No. Maggie is president.
What? Awesome.
Shut up, really?
Yep. Now, her son's a shitbag. Herschel, her and Glenn kid. Herschel's a little shitbag. He runs like a traveling carny sideshow attraction where he cages up walkers so people can look at them because they're so rare now in the safe zone.
Wow.
Oh, that's smart.
Well, one gets out and wanders up to Carl's house, and Carl kills it with Michonne's sword and get taken to court over it after he murders the rest of them because they're dangerous. And Michonne's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not charging him for that. The boy's an idiot. Now it's illegal to do what he does. Because she became a judge. Because Michonne apparently used to be a lawyer. I think they got into that on the show. But she became the judge.
Maybe. Did they?
Did they? Becky?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. No, she becomes a lawyer for the Commonwealth in present time, and then at the skip forward, she's old, gray, and has a granddaughter, and is a judge. No longer Michonne, she's Judge Hawthorne.
Ooh.
And her and Rick never hook up. Although at the beginning, she likes to try and screw dudes that are already taken. And Donna kills herself over it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, she came on to Tyrese and started balling Tyrese while Donna and Tyrese were together.
That's an actual trait for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michonne was one of my favorite characters early on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought she was tough and clever.
Did they ever
resourceful?
Did they ever explain where she got the sword skills from? Fencing.
Seems like they did, but I don't remember.
She did fencing.
I don't think they did. I think they showed where she got the sword, but not where she learned to use it.
Yeah, they did show where she got it, but they didn't show. Maybe not. Yeah, they showed where she got it.
Where'd she get it?
Oh hell!
I don't know now.
Yeah.
Well, in the books, it was from
the
neighbor's.
That was?
Hey, in the books, it was from the neighbor's house. All this shit's fresh in my head.
Well, that's because you just did it 24 hours ago, turkey.
I'm a building, not a bird. Thank you for not misspeciesing me.
Yeah, it was something she found.
Yeah, yeah, she found it in her
but I-
neighbor's house. And the two zombies
Kind
she
of
was
thought she
carrying
took it off
around.
somebody.
Well, the two zombies she was carrying around, we know were her boyfriend and his best friend. In the comics, though,
Right.
she just absolutely, just straight out murdered them after she was done with them. Like, there was no remorse to it whatsoever. She just chopped them up in a little bit. She was like, I don't need them anymore.
God.
Like, they gave her a little bit of remorse in the show, I remember, but there was no remorse in the book.
Yeah.
She was like, have you seen out there? Fuck that. I'm going to kill these guys and stay in here with y'all.
I don't know why that trick of chaining up your zombies and as a camouflage,
Pet.
why it wasn't used more often.
It was by the Whisperers. They dressed up like zombies. They wore their skin, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
Okay, but what about everybody else? I mean, here's this great camouflage that works fabulous.
In the books,
but we don't want to use that.
Well, in the books, they did use zombie guts a lot to get through herds and stuff. Like
Right.
they would gut a zombie and like rub it all over themselves to mask their smell. They didn't just do it the one time.
And it looks like to me that would not be smart.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you turn into a zombie because the zombie bites you, what's in the bite that caused you to turn? Well, it's a virus. And well, if the virus is in their bite, it's also in their blood.
Right, but it usually would need to be in like an open
Like,
wound or
it's
something.
all-
So they
Right.
rub it on their clothes and whatnot, and it's not an issue.
Yeah, I'm just no. Mm-mm.
Also,
Unless you get scratched.
Also, you have to. It's weird because people don't die from eating tainted meat either. Like if some of the cannibals ate Dale after he had been bitten, and they didn't like die because of it. Rick cut them into little bitty pieces.
Did they cook them up first?
Yeah, they cooked them. Yeah, they cut his leg off. They amputated his leg after he had been bitten. They didn't know he had been bitten, so.
Yuck.
But one thing about the ending that I didn't. What now?
I would eat rocks first.
The acorn paste that they were making when they encountered Aaron from Alexandria.
Mhm.
Yeah, acorn paste. What the fuck, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
But one thing that I didn't quite get to at the end of in issue 193, there is a scene where you see what Carl's doing. You kind of check up on a lot of people, and you see that Maggie's the president. Her son's a little shit. Her daughter and Carl are married. Like Carl married Sophia. Donna's kid, I believe. But she's adopted by Maggie and Glenn. It's long and convoluted. Carl kills a kid in the book when he's younger. He just murders a little boy because that little boy killed his brother. The twins in the show were little girls, I believe.
Mhm.
They were little
Yeah.
boys in the book, and Carl just shot one of them in the face because nobody else would do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Carl was interesting because he turned into a kind of a no nonsense guy who would just do what needed to be done.
Yeah.
At a
Right.
very young age.
Yeah. Well,
He kind of had no choice in the matter.
He had murdered his first man at 7 years old. I mean, he shot Shane when he was like 7.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, but Shane had got bit at that point at least.
nope,
No?
nope, nope. He was
Oh, I
pointing a
thought he
gun at
had.
Rick because
Well,
he
yeah, I
wanted to.
knew that, but I thought he was also bit.
Not in the books. Not even a little bit.
Okay.
Nope. He was pointing a gun at Rick, and Carl shot him through the neck, killed him dead, and then they buried him. And later on, a lot later on, they realized that if you die naturally or of anything else, you still turn into a zombie. So Rick went
Right.
back. He drove back to the place where Shane had died and dug Shane up and killed him again.
Wow.
See, and I thought that was just an idiom. But apparently,
I don't think it
in
was
The
a
Walking
He's
Dead,
getting
you actually have
yeah.
to.
Yeah, I don't think he did it vindictively, but he totally did kill Shane twice. Well, he killed Shane once, and Carl killed Shane once.
Well, good father-son bonding time.
But one thing I did want to mention about the end series, like I said, after you check in on everybody, you realize Herschel's kind of a little shit. You see some of the characters who are still alive. You see Michonne with her grandkid. You got all these characters that are seemingly doing well that have survived all of this. Eugene's still alive. He and Stephanie were together. The girl on the radio from the
Eugene is something else.
oh man, I loved Eugene in the books. He was a total cuck.
He is
He had to
a
watch
hot mess.
he had to watch Rosalita and Abraham get it on.
He was something else.
He would have got them snacks if they would have asked. He would have.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the true cuck move I've found out. Is that if he gets snacks, he's a total cuck.
Yes, that would be the ultimate sign. Yeah.
But no, by the end, he pulls his shit together, and he really makes up for being such a shitbird in the earlier part of his introduction. He's the reason they learn how to make bullets and overstock on bullets.
Right.
He's the reason they get bread again.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
I'm not sure. I want to know how.
Well, I mean, he figured out how to make the equipment they needed to bake bread
He
again.
was pretty smart.
Yeah. Well, he says it in the show and the comic books. I'm good at two things: being intelligent and lying. I use
Yep.
those things to stay alive.
Yes, he did.
But by the end of the last issue, we're still 30 years into the future, and Carl sits down to read his daughter a bedtime story, and he starts reading, and he goes not all the way back to the beginning, but they talk about the outbreak and the trials is what they call the time in between the outbreak and the present. So it's been about 40 years, all said and done. And he's talking about the trials, quote unquote, and you realize this is a book written about how great, grand, and wonderful Rick Grimes was.
Oh
and,
man.
and how many people he inspired. And then you see a statue in the Commonwealth or in Alexandria 1 of Rick Grimes with his one hand inspiring people. And Robert Kirkman talks a little bit about it at the end. He said that a lot earlier in the series he had a different ending in mind, and I'm going to spoil what that is too. But
Okay.
Ixel, no problem. We're probably not going to get demonetized because we've never been monetized. So I think the stream will stay up.
Mhm.
We've just been talking about The Walking Dead. It's good to have you. Thanks for joining us. But the ending that Kirkman originally had was a lot similar to the one we got, but it would have come much earlier. And instead of it happening, he just kind of kept going with the story and letting it branch out. But it was in Alexandria or Woodbury 1, and Rick would have died. And then they would have put the statue up, and then the next panel would have been like vines and shit having overgrown the statue, and just like
Oh.
the corpses or the walkers that were left of all the people that we had been reading about, and how everything Rick did was in vain. And that was the ending that we were gonna fucking get, like before issue 100 hit.
Oh man.
It's like, nope, it all fucked up again. You cannot win. The zombies will get you.
Oh man, they sure want to.
Ugh.
But all
Even
in
in
all,
real life.
well, all in all, like I said, I think this was a work of love. This was a passion project for over 16 years for these people. There have been
Oh yeah, definitely.
there's been so much hype around this comic book. This comic book #1 issue got up to $1,000 at one point.
Wow.
Shut up. Really?
Yeah, Walking Dead #1 first edition in good condition was like $1,000 book.
Damn.
Whoa.
Let's see what it is
Too bad we don't have about 12 of those.
now. Speak for yourself. Let's see if I can find a current price for it. I know this is exciting, so if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to ask.
Well, as you were saying, this has spawned so many different other media besides the comic book.
Mhm.
Would you rank this? Is there any? Well, I mean, like, let's say non-superhero comic. Is this done the best of the non-superhero comics as far as that goes? As far as generating additional media?
As far as generating additional media,
Yeah, like the TV show and so on.
I see somebody trying to sell one for $14,000.
What the fuck?
Well, good luck
Really?
with that.
Some people are trying to buy it for about $4 or $5.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it's still a very, very important comic book. To answer your question, SK, I don't like to think about things in terms like that, because just because this was popular and it spawned other mediums, you had Game of Thrones, right? And
Yeah.
with Game of Thrones, it started out as novels, and then they became a TV show and comic books and video games. So it just kind of went the path of anything that's popular does, and they milked it for everything it was worth. It's the most successful, I think, comic adaptation that we've ever seen, at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't venture to say that the Marvel movies are adaptations. I'd say that they're their own, like, expression of what some of these
Right.
stories were, but they're not a direct adaptation by any means.
Right.
Um,
Based on the characters developed by Stan Lee.
yeah, exactly.
And so forth. Yeah.
But as far as my personal, like, top 5 would go, I'll have to think about that. It's not far from the top 5. It's in the top 10 for sure. But there are just so many non-superhero comic books that I like that, I mean, Lock and Key is a
Okay.
non-superhero comic book. It's definitely above this, and
Oh yeah.
as far as something that I enjoyed, not by much. But you've also got like Criminal, which is a book we haven't talked about before. That's a book about a career criminal. As simple as that. Killer Be Killed, a hitman.
Mm.
I mean, there are lots of non-superhero comic books that are really good. Hell, there are
Okay.
even superhero adjacent. Oh, eBay, yeah, 2,700 and 1,500 for Mixel Pierce in the chat. Yeah,
Damn.
yeah, those are on eBay. You could probably look up the sold listings, but that's the #1 first edition issue, probably graded. So,
Man. Awesome.
but no, I think it definitely deserves a spot on the mantle of one of the best comic book titles of all time. If not
Yeah.
for anything, but for the absolute love of the concept that this has spawned. Whether you like the TV show, whether you like the movies, whether you like the little web comic cartoons, whatever you like about The Walking Dead, even if it's just like the culture that was created by it, where they had all the funny meme T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
You know, it created a lot of, I don't know, it created just a lot of buzz of itself, and it transcended mediums. It received 2 Eisner Awards, for God's sake, and that's the
Jeez.
highest praise a comic book can get. If you get an Eisner Award, okay, you are a decorated comic creator now. Kind of like the Purple Heart of comic creators, I like to think.
Very cool. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, whether you've seen the comics or, I mean, much less read them, even if you didn't know about the comics, everybody knows about the show. So
Right.
the name is definitely out there. Even if you never watched the show, you know that it's there. You know what it's kind of about.
Well, the meme on
So
the show is
it has definitely permeated.
The meme on the show
No,
is
it's
that
just saying is.
They never said the word zombie,
Go
right?
Right.
They say it a lot in the comments.
Yeah. So it's definitely, become a part of the culture.
Right.
So that's not an easy thing to.
Oh my God.
Oh
my God.
I wasn't even thinking about that meme. Coral.
Was
Now,
anybody
I'm gonna have
else?
to be honest and tell you that I cried when that kid died.
Well, he doesn't die in the book, so rest assured.
Okay. Well, then I wouldn't cry.
Prime Earth Carl lives.
Yay!
They have the killer eye patch by the end of everything. Big ass leather eye patch and a big beard like Rick.
Oh Lord.
I was so relieved when Lori was killed. Jesus!
Oh Jesus!
Thank God.
The resting bitch face on that actress.
And she was always bitching about something, though. She never got a chance to have a resting bitch face because it was always bitching about something.
Now, one thing that I do want to talk about that I found, Jesus Christ, why do I do shows with these people? What am I? What am I even doing? I hope you're enjoying this chat. I do this because I love you. If it was up to me, I'd just start a GoFundMe for my mental well-being or something.
There's
Oh.
not enough money for that. Are you kidding?
Excess naggage.
Now you know why Jesse drinks. Now you
That's
know
a
why
good
Jesse drinks. Because he has to deal with me and SK.
So, one thing that I did appreciate is they designed covers for issues 194, 195, 196, and 197.
That'll never happen
Yep.
because they're done.
They designed covers for those books and made them so ambiguous that you had no idea that the book was ending when you got this issue in your hand.
Oh my god. Mm-mm.
And Kirkman did say that the end all be all decision of when to end this story really came about because of the 48 issue compendium that these books are packaged in. The last issue will complete the fourth compendium. He didn't want to go beyond that because he didn't want people that bought those big hardbound collector's editions to have to buy one or two single issues to have everything, which is understandable.
Yep.
And it's also respectable that the final issue, triple-sized issue, double-sized issue, whatever, came out at the same cover price as every other issue ever printed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So usually a book that you would be able to charge $8, $9 for, probably 10 because this is The Walking Dead. You could have slapped a $10 price tag on this thing and people would still be piling in to buy it. But,
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
But instead of doing that, they left the cover price the same. Like, they didn't make a big deal out of this being the last issue until it was out. And, you know, it gained a lot of respect for me because, hell, I would have been tempted even to try and carry it to issue number 200.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
even though, you know, I wouldn't even feel bad about saying, you know what, we can make 200 and close it up then. But
People like round numbers.
well, yeah. I mean, I would have looked at that and I said, it's not that hard to stretch it 7 more issues, especially considering this is almost 3. You know, but
Yeah.
I think they did the right thing. I think it was humbling. The story was over. It was at a good spot, and you know, while I'm definitely, you know, I definitely wish there would be more of it coming. I wish that I had just read the first volume and the second volume was already in publication. But I don't think we'll ever get anything more of this particular story. We'll probably get more Walking Dead medium, but I don't think that we'll ever get more of Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead. I think that once he's done, he's done.
Right.
I could be wrong, and like I said, I would love to get the beginning. I would love to figure out how this all started. You know, I'd take issues explaining the formation of all the groups. You know, how did Negan and the Saviors come together?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You know, let's get a Rick point of view from Negan's perspective. Let's
That would
see.
be cool.
You know, Orson Scott Card did something like that with the Ender series.
Really?
Yeah, in the books. You know, the original storyline was obviously Ender,
Right.
and but then he took some of the secondary characters and gave them entire books about their backstories, and and it turned out great.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that's something that I think that's something that doesn't tarnish the validity of the story that we have, because I definitely don't want
No,
any. Go ahead.
it should enhance it.
Right. I don't want to take anything away from the story. In fact, I don't want this story to even affect those stories, because as creators, I'm assuming that there is something that you can look at, as yourselves. If you create something like this, you already know stuff that you're never going to tell people.
Right.
There are little inside jokes that you have. There are little inside
Unless you're
jokes.
J.R.R. Tolkien and then you publish entire volumes of that shit.
Yeah, yeah. Fuck you for reminding me that I read the Sumerian.
Oh, you're the one?
You'd be surprised. There was an entire club of us in school that had read that shit.
Yeah, I know. I actually got
We also all
book of the
played
library.
chess.
I got the book because at the library and thought, oh man, this will be great. And I got about 10 pages into it. I go, Jesus, no, God,
Is that one you paid for so nobody else would ever have to read it?
no.
Ixel Pierce in the chat. I know a person who went to Walker Stalker Con and spent 15 grand. I don't see why they would not
Jesus.
keep going. The series was renewed. Why would there not be at least a graphic novel? I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I think that he's done with the story. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But if we get any more of this, and it's not by Robert Kirkman, I'm not going to read it unless it's endorsed by him, because I can't tell you how many times someone who's not the creator of a character or storyline has completely fucked the experience for me.
Right.
I know that there are storylines that weren't written by Siegel and Schuster for Superman that I liked. And I know that Batman, Court of Owls wasn't written by Bob Kane. But stuff like this, it's almost sacred at this point. Independent comics are almost kind of a sacred zone for me personally. And if anybody besides Robert Kirkman wrote The Walking Dead, I don't feel like it would be The Walking Dead. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. But at the same time, I could see, entire movie franchises built around the concept
Well, yeah, but
that might have
let's just take
eventually have nothing to do with the original characters.
let's just take a look live on the the works of Robert Kirkman. He started out, his first comic book was a series superhero parody called Battle Pope, which I own. Battle Pope.
What a great title. That's fabulous.
He also created Invincible for Image's new superhero line. It was kind of a play on the Superman story. Paramount Pictures shortly thereafter announced that it had the right to produce a film. The Walking Dead. Let's see. Epic Anthology, Sleepwalker, Avengers Disassembled issues, Marvel Knights 2099 one shots. Haunt. This is all just stuff that he's had in the works since The Walking Dead started. Kirkman announced in 2010 that he would run and launch the new imprint called Skybound, which the same thing they're doing with Joe Hill. He just has his own little label for comic books to go out with his approval. Outcast, I believe, had something to do with him if he didn't write it.
So he's been busy.
Yeah, I mean he's never had less than like 5 irons in the pot. Just glancing over it, I mean, hell, there are 6 volumes of Battle Pope.
Holy cow!
I take it you
Battle
would.
Pope.
I take it you would read Battle Pope and review it with me, SK.
Oh man, that just. Hey, I
You
might.
You, not me.
I hope he gets to wear his hat in all the battles.
He does. He does.
Oh,
I actually.
Bless.
Yes, he does. See, where is it at? He's working on Spawn. Or he's not, but he worked on Spawn issue number 200 as well. I didn't even know that. Thief of Thieves was another book that he did under Skybound. Outcast was a book that he did under Skybound, so that is him. He worked with John Malin, a premier comic creator, in a book called Supreme Sacrifice. Interesting. But in any event, you can see that he has done a lot.
A lot of stuff. Yeah.
Someone will hire Max
Yeah.
Brooks to take
Very
over. No, we need to get Max Gaines out of the grave. We need to go find Max Gaines.
Yes.
The Walking Mad. You get bitten and turn into Alfred E. Newman.
Oh my lord.
I would read that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's do that.
That's what we should
No.
do. We should get a campaign together to do a bunch of parody comics with Alfred E. Newman and just have him like The Walking Mad, where you get bitten, you turn into Alfred E. Newman. You know, Madman. Get bitten by a radioactive Alfred E. Newman, and you gain the powers of an Alfred E. Newman.
Spider Mad.
Oh
No,
my God.
not Spider Mad. Madman.
Oh.
It could just
Oh
be
my
Don. It
Lord.
could just be Don Draper with Alfred E. Newman's face.
Batman.
That's right. Yes, Alfred E. Newman wearing the
Hell's
Batman
bells.
costume sounds fantastic. Super Mad.
There you go. Yep.
Now we're getting it. Mad Lantern,
Yep.
starring Pete
Oh
Buttplug.
lord. Pete Buttplug.
Yeah, the presidential
Oh my
candidate.
God. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Good idea.
I like where this is going. I like how it has absolutely nothing to do with The Walking Dead, too.
It started off having to do with it.
The Walking Mad, yes. I
Yeah.
know that was genius on my part. But
Yeah.
everything else, I blame you guys for. But also,
Can't we blame Arden? At least he's not here.
I mean, you can't blame a man if
Hey,
he's not
guys.
here. Yeah.
You
I hate
want
to
to bet?
say
I
it.
bet your ass I can.
Just a heads up, my headset is battery powered and it is about to be unpowered.
Oh. Well, I
Oh.
guess. Huh? Oh. I think.
Uh-oh.
Just saying. So if I disappear suddenly, it's nothing personal.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
You're just setting
You've
it up
told
to
me and
knock him
Jesse
down.
that shit before.
I
We've heard this shit before.
well, if you fall off before we end, we've only got about 10 more minutes. Lord Rackets is doing a stream tonight, so everybody should gear up and head over there. Sounds like it's going to be
Oh,
sounds like it's going to be an Ace Attorney night, and those are the best. Hopefully, there will be a Hispanic woman that sounds like Slowpoke Rodriguez. That'll be pretty good.
oh
But
my God.
if we do lose you before we go quiet, I definitely appreciate you coming on, SK, and listening to me talk on about The Walking Dead. I'm not quite done yet. I think I've got another 10 minutes in me.
I bet you do.
Yeah. One thing I did like is at the end of it all, after the 70 pages of comic book, you got 8 to 9 pages of a goodbye almost from Robert Kirkman, where he tells that little story about the first ending that he came up with. He explains how he feels like it would have been improper to, drag the series out to try and hit that landmark. He explained the reasoning behind the numbering and the compendiums and all that. All in all, I feel like this couldn't have ended on a better note.
I
Well,
think
good.
that says a lot about him, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's you don't often get to say that. I think that you've got this very long running series of fucking anything, and have it wrap up, and everybody be like, yeah, I like how it all came together at the end.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to read it start to finish as well. I already knew enough about the series to just pick up around Negan and start from there, but I started at the beginning with Rick Grimes being shot, and I ended with Rick Grimes being shot, and that was very cyclical. I didn't even bring that up, but real quick,
Wow, yeah.
Ixel Pierce in the chat, is Fear the Walking Dead a TV series branch off of the Walking Dead comics? Not that I can tell. Fear the Walking Dead seems like it's following a different group of characters a little bit earlier than the initial survivors. I could be wrong on that, but I think it actually starts before the infection is widespread, doesn't it? I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
I've never watched it either. I was already done with The Walking Dead
I-
when Fear the Walking Dead came out. But from what I understand about it, it's a prequel almost to The Walking Dead. But yeah, just to touch on that real quick. No, the first page of the book shows the police encounter where Rick gets shot. And the last page of, not the last page, but the last couple of issues, I think issue 192, Rick is shot. 191 or 192. Rick is shot, and he's shot by the leader of the Commonwealth. Her kid.
Oh, Maggie?
No. The leader of the Commonwealth
No.
when they encounter it, the governor there or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Her kid shoots Rick, and then he's put in jail for life. And Carl doesn't kill him, which is surprising. But yeah, he's shot multiple times, and Carl discovers that he's a walker and kills him without hesitation, and then just kind of breaks down and starts crying.
Wow.
So, and then the very last issue is you don't get any of that current timeline. You get 30 years into the future from page 1. The first panel is a zombie walking up on adult Carl's house. So, after the Commonwealth, like they pretty much follow Rick's example to a better world. After he dies, he becomes a martyr for his cause, basically. The whole "I believe in Harvey Dent" meme from Batman, they really did that with Rick Grimes in the story. I mean, he was that much of a hero to these people. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, it wasn't a perfect story, but it was damn good. There were parts there. There was nothing about it that didn't make a lot of sense. If that, if that makes
Well,
sense.
that's good.
There,
No.
it doesn't feel like anything was left untied, even though there's that 30-year gap. Like you can assume that everything just went according to plan for the most part. Like
Well, as far as the story goes, for me, something that's good most of the time and great some of the time, that's I'm pretty happy with that.
yeah, that's definitely
Right.
more than you can ask for a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Oh no, I really enjoyed the series, but now I want to read it because, yeah, it's all your damn fault.
well, it's gonna. Well, the more people I get reading comics, the happier I'll die.
There'll be no dying, damn it. At least not anytime soon.
Well, I mean, you don't have to read them all in 2 days like I did.
Well, yeah. No, because
You're gonna want to,
I
though.
probably would. Yeah, I probably will, and if that's all I do for 2 days, I'm sure that Jesse will want to kill you
Not my problem.
because that means I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
The first 60 something, 70 something issues for everybody that want to read it, they're available on Comixology Unlimited. So if you have a free trial on there, you can read them up to that point, or if you don't, it's $6 a month at that point. Image has the digital copies for the trade paperback volumes. They're nice little nuggets to read. There are a handful of special issues. Oh, Becky's gone. I noticed that noise was over. There she is.
Yeah, that was me. Sorry.
Yeah, I think SK fell off too. I think his headset finally died. But it's about time anyway. I appreciated everybody stopping by in the chat. Becky, thank you. SK, even though you're gone, thank you.
You're
Ixel
welcome.
Pierce, Mrs. Church, Matt Christie, everybody else that showed up, everybody who is and isn't in chat. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah,
And,
don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Please, please, please.
anyway, thank you guys again, and everybody head over to Nick Recada's channel so that he can culturally appropriate Asian narratives. Thanks again,
Good
guys.
point.
Have a great night. I'll see you back here tomorrow, hopefully on time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have no idea what we'll be
What are you
talking
talking about tomorrow?
I don't know.
Ah,
My psychic,
surprise!
my psychic powers, I guess, because I knew you were going to ask that. But anyway,
Yes.
no, I'll figure it out and put it out on Twitter sometime before tomorrow. So thanks again, guys,
Cool.
and have a good evening.